Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where we talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of Jett. A great series premiere, very interesting show. I really like what we've kind of gotten to see so far. So let's just break down the series premiere. Obviously getting introduced to Jett, kind of readjusting to life again, being a mom again. I mean, we still don't know the full scope of everything. It seems like everything's normal between her and her daughter, so I guess I just assumed it was just the context of everything. It seemed like she was obviously relatively fresh out of jail. I don't know whether when we see her get out of that cab or whatever, that's her right out of jail, or whether she's been out for a little while. It just her and her daughter just seemed like they kind of, maybe she's kept in contact with her, made sure to stay in contact with her daughter. Plus her daughter's young, so maybe it doesn't all really process. But nevertheless, Jett, who is played by Carla Gugino, I think that's how you pronounce her last name. I don't know if I'm so familiar with an actress, but I don't think I've seen so much of her work. I know a lot of stuff that wasn't she in that USA thing, Political Animals. I think she was in Wayward Pines, maybe. I know one of the most recent things she did, I want to say it was Gerard's Game, that adaptation of a Stephen King book on Netflix. I don't think I'm that familiar with the work. I'm sure if I looked through it, I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen this in this movie. There's a movie she did with Jim Carrey about the penguins. I think she was in that, if I remember correctly. It's just so weird to me where I'm familiar with an actress just because I've seen her in interviews in the past, but I don't know a lot of her work. I'm going on a huge tangent, so I do apologize. That was a real interesting situation she found herself in. These guys were basically like, hey, you handcuff Charlie because we want to get him and ask him some questions. Side note, I didn't realize this until later on. One of those dudes, it's freaking the actor who played Rio, aka Four from Dark Matter. It took a while because as Four, he had a buzz cut. And it's weird seeing him with four head of hair. I didn't even recognize. I was like, dude, that's Four. So that was kind of interesting. Also, the actor that he was partner up with, his partner in this, I know that actor. I've seen him in so many things. I can't quite remember what the last thing I saw him in. I know one of the last things was the Miss TV show, but there was something more recent I feel like I've seen him in pop up. But nevertheless, obviously Charlie being played by Giancarlo Esposito. Best known for playing Gus Fring is one of the things I'm best known from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, because I know he pops up in that even though I'm not caught up in everything. But he also was in the show Revolution. He was also the Magic Mirror in Once Upon a Time. Just little tidbits like that. But it's interesting because obviously it's okay, Charlie, it's oh, she's sitting there to set Charlie up, but it's actually no, Charlie sets the dudes up because it's oh yeah, because Jett's got such a good relationship with him, it's he looked after me, always kind of helped take care of my daughter and everything like that, made sure she was taken care of, that it's I owe him, so obviously she's trying to look out for him. Plus they kind of have their own extensive history too, they've crossed paths on many occasions, as the way Junior kind of wanted to phrase it or whatever, that his dad describes it as the greatest 2 days fuck he ever had or whatever, something like that. So there's that. It is kind of interesting. I had a feeling what they were doing with Junior earlier on, because it's oh, where's Junior? Yeah, we haven't been able to contact him. I'm oh yeah, something fishy about that. Especially because later on it turns out that those two dudes that were trying to trap her with the whole Charlie situation, those weren't actually other guys. Those guys actually worked for Junior. It was all part of a test. But then the whole question was, well, if that's the case, the first part was a test, sure, but why were they still following her afterwards? Obviously that fills in some blanks later on, but I'll get to that soon enough. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Also shows you that Jett isn't an amateur. She knows how to handle a gun and everything. Whether she's really quick to pull the trigger or not, we don't know. I'm wondering, she's a thief and everything, but is she one of those thieves who's willing to cross that line? Has she never crossed that line? I'm curious to see where she stands in the grand scheme of things. I guess it depends on the circumstances, but she might be in a situation where she's never actually had to pull the trigger. So we'll see. There's the other two pair too that I really like. the two that from the intro. One of them, I'm always blanking on his character's name from. One of them is the dude from The Listener. He popped up on from season 2 on. I want to say his character's name was Diego. He was kind of like the tech support dude, like that and everything. I think it's been a while, so I don't remember as well, but. I really love the fact that it's like, basically they went there to kidnap someone, and it's like, holy crap, they open the shower, it's not her, it's some dude, and he punches him in the face, and it's like, oh, that was kind of wild, and it's like, oh, he's butt naked, of course he would be, Wang flinging and everything, and the other dude shoots him and puts him down. And I love it too because, and they have to explain this. I think they were explaining it to Charlie, like, yeah, just things didn't go down the way we did. Obviously, we're not going to harm her head on her hair and everything, but it's like, the fact of the matter is, how were we supposed to know she was having an affair with the neighbor who turns out to be a jiu-jitsu instructor? Yes, it was just an unfortunate situation. I just love that that's the whole conversation and everything. And to me, I enjoy that so much because I love it where it's just kind of like, okay, you have a plan and everything as a criminal, and it just kind of goes to shit a little bit. That's what I love. And it's like, obviously, like, she's emotional a bit. I even love it later on when they're threatening her to her, like, husband, being like, hey, if you don't do this, we're basically going to do some terrible shit to your wife. And then the dude's like, no, I'm just kidding. I think the dude's name's Vinny. He's like, I'm kidding. I'm not actually going to do anything. That would just kind of incentivize him. The fact of the matter is, if your husband really loves you, this will all be taken care of. You don't have to worry about anything. But he's like, you could tell this, as an antidote, at a cocktail party or something like that, you'll laugh about. Maybe you want to leave out the whole jiu-jitsu instructor part. And he's like, how could you kind of go behind your husband's back like that? I love that. I'm like, you're the pieces of shit. You're criminals and you're judging her life choices like that. I love the hypocrisy. I even love it later on being like, okay, like, you didn't see our face and everything, right? No, it's all going to be good. It's all going to be good. I'd prefer it if you, just pretending like you didn't see our faces, that type of situation. I love that. So there's that side of thing. There's also getting Rufus Quint now, who that actor is played by the actor who played Bushmaster in season 2 of Luke Cage, which is interesting because he also most recently popped up in American Gods season 2. He played Samdi. So I was like, oh man, it was like kind of cool seeing him again. I was like, oh, that's pretty dope. Obviously, him and Jett have a relationship. And I love Junior kind of being the asshole he is, kind of throwing the whole Charlie thing in his face and stuff like that. Either he knew and did that on purpose, or maybe he didn't know, which complicates things. So I'm also curious to know what Maria does exactly, because even earlier it's like, oh, Maria's not my, what was it? She's not the maid or whatever. Is she? And it seems like she's kind of like an advisor, a nanny, a friend, a confidant type of situation, because it's like, oh, you're nervous and stuff like that. She's like, I'm not really that nervous, is what Jett was trying to say. So I'm curious to find out more about Maria, because she seems still to be like an enigma, So also, you can't forget about Jett running into Jackie, who tripped me out. I was like, hey, that's Smokey from The Blacklist. It's the same actor, which is interesting. I won't go into spoilers if you're not caught up with The Blacklist, but that was just kind of interesting. I was like, hey, I feel like I've definitely seen him in something else too, but I feel like Smokey's probably like the most recent thing I can connect to him. But either way, turns out he was an undercover and everything, and him and Jett have a complicated history. Dealing with that dude Frank Sweeney, who loves nail guns for whatever reason. I mean, I guess like every criminal got to have their niche, their thing, and his thing just happens to be nail guns. I swear I was watching something else recently where someone's thing was, I might be thinking of Sneaky Pete with that dude in season 2, the dude who had a thing for acid. That might be what I'm thinking of. But I swear there was someone else and something I was watching fairly recently that had to deal with nail guns. I don't remember. Either way, I'm going on a tangent. But luckily, Jett kind of found her way out of that situation. It's kind of interesting because you got to also give praise to Jett being super calm on her. Obviously you can tell she's worried, but she's not flipping out. She kind of keeps her composure. Maybe it has something to do with being a thief. Maybe you learn to kind of steady your heart rate and stuff like that, because panicking and freaking out is not going to do you any good. But under the circumstances, back then, she literally had gasoline dumped on her. To be fair, that was just bait to draw out. Because I always suspected Murphy, so I just needed you to be bait. Sorry about that. It's like, Jesus. That's a scary situation to be in. I also forgot to talk about it. I really love, obviously she's in the park with Alice and everything, and that other mother walks over and she's like, hey, so, what was it, join our group and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, okay. It's like, oh, so you're new to the neighborhood, huh? So where were you? And she's like, jail. And she says it so straight faced, and the other lady's like, oh, ha, 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 thinking she's joking and everything. I was like, I love it. I think we're going to see more of that to kind of probably blend in more and not stand out as much. Maybe something later on in that series is going to like make it so she needs to have those contacts and stuff. But I love it too, just because it's like we see them all bunched over there, just like all on their phone sex, and I'm like, I think that's going to be set up for the future of like, I want to see her kicking it with them, probably trying to pretend to be like a normal mom while she kind of off doing her criminal thing. And that's something I'm going into this liking the aspect of like, oh yeah, she's got to balance being like a mom while also being a criminal, which that takes a whole turn in itself, but I'll get to that soon enough. I do love that the fact is obviously they're going to Cuba because they're trying to basically exchange this ring that Charlie wants to exchange. Like, it's like, oh, this ring is all he wants, and he wants to exchange it with a fake. He's going after a dude known as a Russian, who is played by the actor who I've seen this dude in so many different things. Like, thing I kind of know him best from, I think it was the first thing I saw him in, maybe, was in the TV show Bitten on Sci-Fi, interestingly enough. You know, Dark Matter was on Sci-Fi, just kind of throwing it out there. What was I about to say? He played Jeremy on the TV show Bitten, so I was like, oh. But nevertheless, I love the fact that they go to Cuba. It's almost kind of nice because they're vacationing, having fun and stuff like that. I mean, it seems like that's kind of on them because they're probably doing recon and stuff anyway. But, they're having fun. I mean, I guess it kind of fits, with what they're up to anyway, but still. I do love the fact that it turns into a complicated thing because obviously, Jett's got to get close to him and everything, and she's like, all right, this next part you don't want to look at because obviously he's going to get a little flirty. She's going to have to get a little flirty with the Russian and everything, and obviously you can tell it really bothers Quentin, especially because obviously, like, even hearing the stuff about her and Charlie, which he was like, no, he looked after you, so I'm not going to judge or be mad about it or anything like that, so... But then, them enacting the plan and everything like that. I love the whole point of like, I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be going in the kitchen, but you're in the kitchen with him. And she's like, go through the window. He's like, no, you go. And just pointing to her. She's just like, no. And I love that. They're very good at what they do. Playing him, maneuvering him in just the right ways. And then you have, Quentin coming across those pictures in the safe. The whole aspect of like, okay, so here's Junior with a whole bunch of bodies, and it's like, okay. So I was like, okay, so I was like, because my mind went to, at first I was like, okay, so is Junior killing these people after he's having fun? Is he a sick, twisted SOB? Or is it just a situation of they planted the bodies there, and it's like, oh, we're framing you for this, so you're kind of in our pocket now type of situation. Sadly, Quentin tried to get them out of there as soon as possible, but then lo and behold, sadly they get captured. Because the whole point is like, it makes you wonder how long did he know? Because I guess this is why, because remember like that, I brought it up earlier, like about how that was going to affect things. So it's like, oh yeah, like they, Charlie had made a point of like, why is my son still having Jett, tested and having these dudes follow her? And that's why, because he was gathering more info on her, which he subsequently gave to the Russian. I guess it's like whatever his dad is up to is like, I have to let him know what's up. Like, I wonder what, it is exactly between, like, what's the significance of that ring? Is it something connected to Charlie? Is it something that is like, it has more sentimental value than he kind of let on? Because it almost seemed like it's actually worth, he's like, well, it doesn't really matter to you. It's going to be worth $500,000. Like, it's what you're going to get paid for this job and everything like that. So obviously, Charlie kind of didn't inform her about probably everything. I mean, obviously, he doesn't know everything because Junior's kept things quiet about being underneath someone's thumb and everything. But it's like, the fact is he set them up to be in that situation, and it's like, oh, who do you work for? And brings in Quentin. I'm like, oh, please don't do that. Please don't do it. I was like, I was thinking like, oh, that character's going to be around a while. Nope. Bullet in his eye. I was like, okay, tell me this is going to be like some big test that Charlie put this all forward. Like, that's what I was hoping for the entire time. It's like, no. The moment he pulled that trigger, I was like, come on, please tell me that was fake or something. Like, you fake. It's like, no, this is real. Like, basically, Junior sent them in there to their dads, but now it's like, Jett has to work for him. Basically, she's going to have to be Jett's in this impossible situation because obviously she has loyalty to Charlie, but at the same time she's got to look out for her daughter because this dude knows who she is. Like all those threats that were kind of made earlier in episode by the guys that were just testing her, it's like it came back around to a certain extent, and now she has to, I guess that was foreshadowing to a certain extent. I mean, I guess that was kind of the whole point too, like in case she was ever in that situation to prove her loyalty. But now it's even more so like now it's like, because she ended up even telling him, it's like, oh, I work for Charlie, but it's like, oh, that's the wrong answer. I was like, the answer is she works for you, and lo and behold, that's the case. It's like, right. So, but the point I was also making, like, I'm wondering what that whole Junior situation is. Is it like, oh, he has fun with people and then he goes psychopath and kills them and they just happen to photograph it? Is it the type of thing of like, oh, you want to have fun, do whatever you want to, like, get a little crazy, like, we'll supply, like, the Russian and his people will supply all that for him, but then they took blackmailing photos, or, like I said, or they set Junior up like that. Either way, the sad thing is now Jett can't say anything to Junior, because if she exposes Junior, Junior is going to expose her. So it's a whole complicated thing. But obviously, she can't do anything to Junior because she would have to admit what happened, and that's just going to put her daughter's life in danger. So now she's got to have to play both sides, because obviously it's like, oh, things are good between her and Charlie, but it's like, he's no punk. I mean, they, you know, once again, great casting on their part, getting Giancarlo Esposito, because it's like, oh, that's Gus Fring, you know. So it's got to be interesting for him to kind of be back in that world. I mean, to be fair, because, you know, Better Call Saul, everything too, but to kind of be back in that world of kind of playing criminal. Doesn't seem like he's as, like, vicious, at least from what we've seen, as like Gus. Gus was very threatening. It seems like Charlie can be threatening, but he also has fun at the same time. So it's a very different character in that regard, but still, she's kind of stuck between two people, someone she knows for a long time who will probably not hesitate to put a bullet in her head if it turns out that she's betrayed him, versus a guy that's willing to kill her, butcher her family type of situation, you know. So stuck between a rock and a hard place. And that's what I'm curious to see, like, you know, because everything they set up with, you know, her meeting Jackie in this episode, I'm like, okay, so that's going to play some role in this. Like, she's probably going to try and work Jackie into this so she can get Jackie to help her take him down. And like the look on her face at the end, I thought kind of says it all. It's like she's going to play both sides for now, but the moment she gets a chance, she's going to get free and she's going to kill him, the Russian, for him killing Rufus, you know, Quentin. And I was like, because this is going to be, I think, a true blue revenge story, but till then, she's going to have to play it cool and, you know, play the role that she's given of like, oh, I have to double cross Charlie. She's probably going to obviously be looking into Junior, probably try to find a way to expose him without exposing herself, probably, maybe. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what that conversation is like when she gets back to the States and everything. So we'll ultimately have to wait and see. But I'm very interested to see where all this takes. I didn't know, because I thought like the entire time she was going to be working for Charlie, but now it's like, I watched a trailer for this like a little while ago, so I'm not remembering this clearly. Typically, I only watch trailers like once, maybe twice. I try not to, just because I want to be as blind to a show as possible. So that's why I try not to look up too much or know too much ahead of time. But still, I kind of figured she would just be working for Charlie the entire time, but it's like, oh, she's working for Charlie while working for someone else because she's kind of being forced to. So it's going to be interesting that basically she's going to have to basically be living 3 different lives, trying to be a mother, working for Charlie. You know, she told him she was out, but now she has to be back in, but she wanted to walk away, you know, obviously to be a mother in her child's life, but now she got to go back in there because she's working for someone else. It's a whole complicated thing. And all while, you know, probably and most likely plotting out her revenge. Maybe even another fourth path being, like I said, if she potentially works with Jackie, who is undercover, there's a story there to tell, because obviously, like, Jackie and Jett have crossed paths subsequently since that moment 10 years ago, you know. So, very interested to see where all this ends up taking us in the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.